afternoon. I'm here to talk to you today about what do healthy relationships look like? It's a question I get a lot. In my work, I work with women who come from toxic relationships where they're experiencing toxic relationships, whether that's in their family situation, whether it's from in a workplace. So, toxic relationships can show up in many different ways: a workplace, a family, a partnership, romantic relationship. And toxic relationships are often characterized by behaviors that we would consider abusive behaviors. So, emotionally, verbally abusive, financially abusive, are all behaviors that characterize a toxic relationship. But when you've experienced or when much of your life has been involved in experiencing toxic relationships, it can become a challenge to know what the flip side of that, what is a healthy relationship like? Because patterns repeat themselves. And the pattern that you experienced as a child is most likely the pattern you're likely to replicate as an adult, unless you specifically do some intervention to change that. So, I'm here today to talk to you specifically about three different ways that healthy relationships look and what they feel like. And so I'm excited to share that with you today. In fact, this month we're going to have a series of interviews around this topic. And what I'm sharing with you today is my own experience. And then over the next couple of weeks, I have three more women who will be coming in to share on how they have grown healthy relationships in their lives. So, point number one that I want to make today is all around unconditional acceptance. When there's a healthy relationship, one characteristic of that is always unconditional acceptance. And what do I mean by that? I mean unconditional acceptance of you the way you are and me the way I am. What does that look like then different from a toxic relationship? Well, much of toxic relationships are a push and pull of trying to make someone else fit what someone else wants them to be. It's all about you didn't do things correct, or you didn't do things to a certain standard that is correct. And in a healthy relationship, there isn't any of that. There is this unconditional acceptance that we're each unique individuals, and from that, we're going to have different perspectives, different likes, different dislikes, different ways of handling emotions, and that's who we are. And that is a key piece of having having safety in a relationship. So if we don't have this foundational piece of acceptance in there, we can't build much on top of it. But when there's a key foundation of acceptance in there, then what builds on top of that is the ability to have authentic conversations. What do I mean by authentic conversations? Authentic conversations is where you're able to sit down with someone, whether it's a friend or a partner or anyone, and you're able to genuinely share what's on your heart and what you're experiencing without them having an emotional reaction to it or having to defend themselves in some way. Now, this doesn't mean that you are attacking other people. It just means you're authentically able to share what you're experiencing, whether it has anything to do with the other person or whether it's about a totally neutral subject. You're able to have conversations without the other person or yourself blaming someone for something, having to make someone wrong for how they feel, being accused of being overly sensitive or overly emotional, or um, being told that your idea or what you're bringing to the table is ridiculous or doesn't make sense. Any sort of criticism or judgment in there when it comes to communication is makes it unsafe. So this space on the flip side of that of unconditional acceptance makes it safe to have difficult conversations. Now, that doesn't mean you're always going to agree with the other person 100%. It just means that you have this space that you're able to work through disagreements and you're able to share authentically what's on your heart. And because there is that piece of unconditional acceptance, this idea that we're going to be rejected if someone doesn't like what we say or do is taken off the table. Now, that's huge because I'm curious, how many times, maybe even today, have you chosen not to say something that was on your heart because you're afraid it might make someone else upset or they might reject you for what they said, for what you said? Now, this piece about communication in healthy relationships also takes ownership. It takes ownership of how I feel. No one can make you feel or do anything. You are always at choice about how you perceive things, how you feel. So in healthy communication, we're always taking ownership of our business, taking ownership of us, which is a very exciting space to be. Now, the next characteristic I want to talk about is making space for each other in the relationship. This is really key. And it also builds on that foundation of respect as an individual. Because many relationships that are toxic are very lopsided. So it's all about what one person wants to do or see or experience, and the other person's input feels like it doesn't have any weight or any value. And because that person's probably learned that over the years, it's reinforced that your opinion doesn't matter, then they've lost their skill to be able to speak up for themselves and have their voice seen and heard. So that's the next piece here in making space for each other in the relationship, is making physical space, making time, making space for that relationship to flourish. One of the people you're going to be hearing from in the weeks ahead is a dear friend of mine, and we've had a ongoing, very close friendship for 4 years. And the reason that friendship has flourished in that 4 years is because we consistently, every week, make time to nurture that relationship. Every week we have an hour that we spend together on the phone or via video chat where we're investing in that relationship. And in that conversation, we make time specifically for each person to be heard. And it's the same thing whether it's a family relationship or a partnership relationship. Actually carving out the space to spend time together, to have conversations, and to make sure that each person is has their time and their ability to be heard, what they want to say, what they want to do. And then nothing is ever going to be 50-50. I don't think that anything is ever perfectly split 50-50 in a relationship. I think over the balance of time, it kind of balances out that way. But there might be one week in a partnership where one partner has an intense project at work that needs to be done, and the other partner has to step up and do more than 50%. And then that partner, vice versa, should always be respectful of giving back to that person so that it stays in this balanced relationship where no one's being essentially taken advantage of, where everyone has their opportunity to be heard. I think this is equally important with space for allowing people to have space away from each other also. So when you're talking about a romantic partnership relationship, a healthy relationship doesn't mean that you have to be together 24/7. In fact, it's good for each individual to cultivate their own interests, their friends, so that they're not looking 100% for all their emotional well-being to come from that other person. In fact, it's part of a healthy relationship is that each person is taking care of their own needs, their own well-being as a priority. And then when they come together, that is, they're two healthy people coming together. This idea that, I found my perfect other half, or, my perfect, the person that's the perfect fit for me. Well, if we have to be two whole people choosing to step into a relationship to make a whole, healthy relationship. So just to kind of recap the things that we've talked about today is unconditional acceptance, respecting each other as individuals, and making space for each other in relationships. Okay. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your comments. So please leave a comment about what was important to you, what you've learned from this conversation today, and most importantly, what questions have come up from the conversation today. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. I'm Transformational Women's Coach Vicki Haddock, and I'm here to help you not just survive, but to thrive. We weren't meant to be here to live and have painful relationships. We're meant to be here to thrive and to be able to grow those gifts and talents bursting inside of us to new levels. So thanks for watching today. I'll see you again soon.